Are England better than the Springboks? I'm not saying that, but Stuart Barnes is suggesting it could be the case. Or is he? In this episode, you are going to get a front row seat into exactly what the former England fly half had to say, how he justifies it, and I'll give you my take. So just in case you don't know who Barnes is, let me bring you up to date or remind you. He's a former player who enjoyed a good domestic career in English rugby, mostly with Bath as a fly half. Barnes also represented his country 10 times between 1984 and 1993. He was also a British and Irish Lion. Since retiring, he has taken up a career in the media. Barnes has had a successful career as a rugby writer and has also been involved in broadcasting. And just to prove that I'm not here to launch a personal attack on the man, I want to show you his bio on X. A man who watches a lot of rugby. It's not a bad way to make a living, and I'm not complaining. But the odd bottle of red, book, bet, and Dylan CD rounds it all off. Now, I think most of us would be happy to be living a life that looks something like that. I personally swap the Dylan CD for something else, but that could be because I'm a good 20 years plus younger than Barnes, and it's just a personal preference. So, what has the 62-year-old said that has stirred controversy? Let's take a look at his comments after England's 68-14 Six Nations win over Wales. This was a chilling display of finishing on England's part. When South Africa won 45-12 in Wales last autumn, I thought I'd witnessed a new level of dynamism from the world champions pack. On Saturday, there was a dynamic blast to the England game, a precision in the passing, a finality of finishing. Not many teams would have lived with them. Now look, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. England did run riot against a weak Wales side. No one can deny that. The Springboks also smashed them. Now, if you want to engage in bean counting, then you can say their win was larger than ours. Yeah, sure. But that doesn't mean that they are better than us. That's not the way it works. In fact, that's the way a 10-year-old thinks. But it might surprise you to learn that I'm actually more in agreement with Barnes than might meet the eye. I've been saying for a while now that this England side is a team on the move. No doubt last year in November, when we beat them, we had the upper hand. And I've been watching this year's Six Nations closely. I thought the English lost an arm wrestle against Ireland. Then they had smash and grab wins over France and Scotland. Now let me stop there, because you might say France should never have lost. You might say Scotland would have won if Finn Russell had landed just one of his kicks. And you'd be right. But why should that be England's problem? They then eased past Italy and finished off with that good win over Wales. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying England are all of a sudden world beaters, but I definitely see something brewing. Whether or not Steve Borthwick can harness that and turn them into a Rugby World Cup dark horse in 2027 remains to be seen. I've said this before. I think in Jamie George and Luke Cowan-Dickey, they have a bomb squad-like hooker situation. Will Stewart is a top tight head. Maro Itoje is a proper hard man enforcer as their leader. Ollie Chessum is an impressive lock partner. I rate their loose trio. I was particularly impressed by Tom Curry in this year's Six Nations. He was on the right cunt of several fine performances, it has to be said. I'd even go so far as to say that I like him. Please don't block me or cancel me for saying that, guys. Alex Mitchell is not a bad scrummy, and then Finn Smith seems to have been a bit of a find for them. The rest of the backline ranges from pretty good to very good, and I think they have the makings of a good side. The signs are there, in my view. From what I can see, I would say that the signs are there. But, as I say, it remains to be seen whether or not they will fulfill their potential. I'd certainly be more excited about where this team could go as an England fan compared to what a Scottish supporter might be feeling about their team right now. Now, I'm not a big fan of criticizing coaches without giving them a proper chance to implement their ideas. But as you know, many people want to pass judgment after just a few games. You just can't do that. Borthwick was under a lot of pressure at first. Now look, I've got no skin in the game. I'm not emotionally involved when it comes to England. Apart from the fact that as a South African, I enjoy seeing them lose. So maybe in that sense, I'm emotionally involved. But I'm trying to be objective here, in the interests of being objective and fair. I've always thought that you've got to give Borthwick time. And I believe he has slowly turned this team around. Think of the mess they were in after Eddie Jones departed. Barnes has also noticed this. It is hard to believe the same man coached England in the 2023 World Cup when dynamism was a dead word. Then, Steve Borthwick insisted only on attrition. England played it safe. Each man had his specific role in the team as they played rugby by numbers. Barnes then switches back to the Wales win. What was most glorious from an England fan's point of view was the pace put on the game by the forwards. For too long, England have been on their heels and plodding towards the try line in that inch-by-inch style. Against Italy, there were clear signs of an extra English dynamism, but Cardiff was another level, as impressive in its demolition as South Africa's astonishing first 20 minutes when Eben Etzebeth and his pals ran all over Wales last autumn. This was the most clinical display of final third finishing we have seen from England in ages. Now let me tell you that there were some people who tried to portray Barnes's views here as belittling towards South Africa. Remember, Barnes said not many teams would have lived with England. Well, I saw a headline that implied Barnes indicated that England's scrum is better than that of the Springboks. The publication also tried to portray Barnes as a man who said that the Springboks would not have been able to live with England. But he didn't say that. And it would have been very easy for me to make an episode here lamenting that. But you know what, guys? I'm happy to react to what I think is British or English and Irish sports media nonsense. Like when Matt Williams says our bomb squad is unethical, for example. But in this instance, I don't believe that's the case. I genuinely think Barnes is excited about the direction England is taking. And quite frankly, if I was an England supporter, I would share that sentiment. You might ask me why I'm doing an episode about England when this channel is all about Springbok rugby. Well, I wanted to do two things here. One, dispel this nonsense idea that Barnes is saying England are better than the Springboks, because he didn't say that. And two, we could face England at the 2027 Rugby World Cup and we'll have to be prepared properly. And here's why. The tournament is expanding to 24 teams. There are going to be 6 pools of 4 teams. Now, why I think this is important is because if we look at the current world rankings, we lead the way, followed by New Zealand, Ireland, France, Argentina, and England. But look at Australia down in 8th. I say look at the Wallabies because they will be seeded as the host nation. Now, obviously, the rankings are going to change between now and the World Cup draw, which is set for December this year. But assuming the current rankings, England will not be seeded. So that means the Springboks could be pooled with England. England could potentially beat the Boks. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. And then, because we finished second in our pool, we could find ourselves in a last 16 match against France or the All Blacks. The point I'm making is that despite England's ranking, the clear and obvious upward trajectory that they're on suggests to me that they are likely going to have a say at the next World Cup. I don't think they'll win it, but they could eliminate one of the teams expecting to win it, or derail someone's campaign. Because if everything goes to form, they probably finish second in their pool. But then imagine us, Ireland, Australia, maybe not Australia, but maybe Australia, New Zealand, France, then have to play England in the last 16 instead of the quarterfinals. It could happen. So with all of that being said, what's your take? Do you think England are on the right track? Or despite whatever is going on, the Springboks are unlikely to be troubled by them anyway at the next World Cup? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, why not give me a super thanks? That's the heart button with a $sign inside of it. You'll be able to make a highlighted comment and make a small donation to my channel. I promise to reply to your comment. I'll also click on the heart button on your comment. And the reason I'm looking for donations, guys, is because I would love to do this full time. And to that end, go to Australia and cover the Rugby World Cup for you from down under with daily content. The donations are whatever you want them to be. They're typically in US dollars, so it could be $1 or $100 million. You can opt for the latter if you're a Rupert, Motsepe, or Dangote. Hint, hint. If you're not yet ready to support me financially, you can always just crock roll the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And may I recommend, if you're enjoying my content, this video over here, where I spoke exclusively to 2015 Springbok assistant coach Ricardo Loubser about how that year's Boks got so close, yet so far at the Rugby World Cup. You'll be amazed at what he reveals. I've also interviewed 4 Rugby World Cup winning captains, David Kirk, Nick Farr-Jones, John Eales and Martin Johnson, and you can find those in this handy little playlist that I've put together over here. Check them out. Which one you prefer doesn't really matter. Enjoy it, and I'll speak to you next time.